Hey there, welcome back to Verbalist. In today's video, I'm going to tell you how you can review your own IELTS essay. And all you need to do is to check your essay for these 6 pointers. That's right, just 6 pointers to get you to that desired score of band 7. Now let's get started right away with the video. The first one that you need to check is if your answer, if your introduction, your body paragraphs and your conclusion are all aligned, are all consistently saying the same thing, and at the same time they are fulfilling the question's requirements. Now you need to understand what the question is asking you. Is it asking you your opinion? Is it asking you for your solutions? Is it asking you your judgment about a certain development? Is it asking you to evaluate views? Now when you do this, you will be able to check if you're fulfilling the question's requirements. Now, one more aspect that you need to do here is to see if your ideas are well elaborated, if you've written examples that are relevant to what you want to say. So, the first thing that you need to do is to maintain consistency, make sure you've met the question requirements, and also that your answer is well explained. Now, all these three aspects are part of a scoring criteria that's called task achievement. And the better you do in all of the three aspects that I mentioned, the better your score is. And you can reach a band 8 at ease. Okay, the next thing that you need to check is if your ideas are coming out clearly. If you have said that this is a solution to a certain problem, for example, it should seem as if the solution to the problem is actually clear when the person reads it. Now, this is also called thought structure or coherence, making sense out of what you want to write. Right? So, this means that your sentences have to maintain a certain sequence, and you can see them on my screen here. You should start out with the main idea, give an example, and then an explanation to the example. So, your body paragraphs have to follow this sequence. Now, same goes with your introduction and your conclusion. They should be reiterating your ideas that you have written in your body paragraphs along with paraphrasing the question. Now, if you've done this, that means you can easily reach a band 7 or even higher based on the sequence of sentences that you've written. Now, this is the second criteria or the second checkpoint. Now, the third aspect that you need to check in your essay is connecting ideas, connecting different sentences. Now, this is a part of scoring criteria which is called cohesion in your IELTS writing, which is also probably mistaken and misunderstood by most students. So, what you need to do here is to see whether you actually need to establish connections between your ideas. Now, let's say you are asked 2 solutions for a certain question. Now, in that case, when you list these solutions down, it makes sense for you to connect them together and say one solution is so and so, and the second one is another one. So, in that case, you have to establish connection. But let's say you are asked reasons and solutions. Now, you will write reasons in a body paragraph and solutions in another. You can't really establish a logical connection between these two answers. So, in that case, there is no need for you to establish cohesion. So, you need to judge based on what the question is asking you to do, whether you actually need to establish cohesion or no. Now, let's say you're contrasting ideas. Let's say one is an aspect that is positive, one idea is going against the other one, advantages, disadvantages. In such case, you're contrasting. So you need to then establish connections. Now, this ability of you being able to establish connections without attracting attention to the examiner is called cohesion, and the better you do it, the higher your score is. So you need to verify your essay for this as to whether you've established connections wherever necessary. So far, we've discussed 3 aspects. One, which talks about establishing the answer talks about meeting the question's requirements and detailing your answer. And the second one is writing sentences in a certain sequence, making sure your ideas are clear. And the third one is cohesion. So all of these three aspects belong to scoring criteria's task achievement and coherence and cohesion, right? So if you verify your answer for these things and you've done well, there is no one stopping you from reaching a band 7. Okay, now on to the next three criterias. The next three criterias are mostly based on your language skill, but one of them is also dependent on the other three aspects that I mentioned.
Before we continue, make sure you like, share and subscribe to my channel.
Let's get started. The first one here is vocabulary. Now, by vocabulary, again, I mean a lot of things. So one is obviously using less common words, making sure that you display the knowledge of less common sophisticated vocabulary, collocations, phrasal verbs. You're not required to use idioms, by the way, in your essay, right? So if you have displayed this fluently and flexibly, as in, if you've displayed this as in when required by the idea, and you have done this with ease, it does not seem as if you have force-fitted a word in a certain sentence. That means you are a band 8. Okay, so the next thing that you need to check in this area is your spellings and also whether your word choices are correct. So for this, you need to develop the skill of vocabulary. You can't really check your own vocabulary unless you have reached a certain level. Okay, so just make sure that you constantly keep improving, and I've done videos that tell you how to increase and improve your vocabulary. Okay, the third aspect in vocabulary here, which is probably the most important, is paraphrasing. So you need to make sure that you're using different words in your answers, and you need to stop copying words from the question. That's another aspect. So if you've done enough paraphrasing, have less spelling mistakes and have used some less common words, then you are a band 7. Okay, so on to the fifth one, which is grammatical accuracy. So grammatical accuracy is basically your ability to maintain correctness in all aspects of grammar. Now this includes parts of speech, nouns, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, placing them correctly, tenses, using modal verbs, making sure you're using perfect tenses properly, using passive voice properly, using prepositions and conjunctions properly, using punctuation marks properly. This is what is required out of you. Now, this may seem a lot, but remember that you may not be making mistakes in all these areas. So, when you feel that you're strong in a certain area like commas, just make sure that you're not making mistakes there. If you're strong in tenses and verbs, just make sure that your answer is not having any errors in that area. So, the lesser your errors are, the higher your grammar score is. Okay, and you can reach a band 8 if you maintain nearly 0 errors. Alright, which brings me to my sixth checkpoint, which is grammatical range. Now for grammatical range, you need to use different sentence structures like complex, compound, passive voice, conditionals, relative clauses, indirect speech. You need to use all of these different sentence structures. But remember, it is not about how many of these structures you're using, it's about how well you've maintained variety naturally and fluently. And this is also correlated to grammatical accuracy. So if you have used different structures but your sentence structures are wrong, then again, you're not going to go beyond a band 6. Right? So these are the different aspects on which you can check your answer on your own without having to take evaluations from anyone else. Right? So let's go back and revise all of these parameters. Task achievement, which means understanding questions requirements, making sure that you have established your answer and maintained consistency, and also elaborating well. The second aspect was coherence and cohesion, which means you are able to establish a sequence of sentences and then connections between ideas. The fourth and the fifth aspects were vocabulary, making sure you're paraphrasing, reducing spelling errors, and then the last one was grammatical range and accuracy, right? So you make sure that you are verifying your answer based on these checkpoints. And if you need a PDF containing all of these checkpoints, I've attached that in the description of the video. Okay, so you can check that out, download this and check your answers for all of this. So I've also mentioned the band score that you will get if you make a certain mistake. So you can reach out to me if you have questions on how your answer turns out to be in the comment section, and I will take them. Alright, so I hope this video helped you. You can check out my other videos in the writing area here. You can also check out my other content on IELTS writing, including masterclasses and other videos. And I will see you guys in another video containing requirements for task 1. Bye bye then, have a great day.